Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gabesta here. We're back, and today we're looking at the Heroic Hellfire Assault encounter. And all of these videos are going to be from Heroic perspective. That's why there's a delay on getting these out. Apologies for that. But everything applies to normal difficulty as well. Some instances there will be things you'll see in the video that will not exist if you're doing this on normal, but for the most part it will just be the same strategically and mechanically as on Heroic. So this encounter is very easy, very simple introductory fight. The basic idea here is that you're fighting off waves of enemies, including a number of siege machines. These machines will try to destroy the cannons that are behind the raid. However, when you kill a machine, it will drop a crate of munitions. And these munitions can be picked up by any player, and that player then runs over to one of the cannons behind you. The cannon will soak up the munitions or the shots, and it will shoot it at the gate. And the idea is you want to destroy the gate, which takes about 6 to 7 crates of munitions, and therefore 6 to 7 siege machines to die. Overall, though, it's always about just prioritizing the proper targets, making sure DPS are focusing the right things, tanks are picking up all the adds, and other than that, it's very simple. As usual, you'll want 2 tanks, a solid mix of healers and DPS, usually 1 healer for every 5 players in the raid. You can overdo the healing if you want to make sure you survive, but there's really not very much damage on this fight, so less healing is probably going to make it easier for you so you don't get overwhelmed with adds. Now there are 4 different types of siege weapons that you'll face, 4 different machines, and these all come from the backside of the room. So if you're watching your timers closely or just looking back there, you can see them spawn quite a ways away from you. And this means you can technically move forward and engage them a little sooner if you're having trouble. But the basic goal for all different types is melee, attack them from behind if you're able to do so. Range, of course, can stay at range. And the goal is to try to kill the siege machines before they get toward the bottom of the ramp of either respective cannon. If you can kill them that quickly, they will basically never threaten to do much damage to the cannons, and you will not wipe it all. The only way to really wipe this fight is to just be too slow on the siege machines and have them destroy one of the cannons, which will instantly wipe you. So, the 4 different types of siege machines probably won't bother showing the footage because they die very quickly, but they're Flame Belcher, which throws a volley of belch flame at a random player. So simply just avoid the volley there. It looks like a ring. The Crusher, which will move toward a cannon, and if it gets in melee range, it will crush it, which does a huge amount of damage. It also has burning jets on the sides and the front. So it's important that, like I said, players that are in melee attack from behind it. The Demolisher casts Siege Nova, which is sort of a large red circle on the ground. And again, you just need to watch for that cast and avoid it easily. And then finally the Artillery, which will cast Artillery Blast that will essentially just do a big amount of damage to everyone within 40 yards. So all of these, like I said, the main priority is just killing them before they get to the bottom of the ramp if possible. However, there may be times where your DPS priority takes precedent on other targets. You'll notice at the start of the fight, which we're being back to here, you have a named ad called Siegemaster Martak. This mob is very simple. She really doesn't do much to speak of. She has 2 basic abilities, but the goal here when you start the fight is to simply attack her primarily, push her to 50% quickly before you get overwhelmed with new ads. You can lust at the start because there's really no point in lusting at any other time in the fight. It's all kind of just the same difficulty, the same curve throughout. So if you want to just make sure you get rid of Siegemaster quickly, you can lust at the start, and that's fine. Anyway, her main abilities are Shockwave. You just have to sidestep the ground cone attack. And then Howling Axe, which targets 3 random players. And these 3 people will want to move at least 8 yards away from other people in the raid. And she'll throw her axe that'll bounce between them. So if you're 8 yards apart, this will not threaten anyone else. Once she hits 50%, she will leave the fight, and that's it. You're done with her from then on. Now, even though the goal of this fight is to destroy the Siegemakers, get their munitions, put them in the cannons, kill the gate, the real priority in this encounter is the Felcasters. These are extremely dangerous and probably the thing that's going to most likely wipe you if anything would. The basic idea here is that they're normal casters. They just do a volley attack when they first spawn, when they're Gorebound Felcasters, and you can interrupt this and kill them off. But once they reach about 30% health, they will transform or metamorphosis. And once they do this, they become Gorebound Terrors. They will chain cast their volley attack, and it's not interruptible at that point. So it is critical that DPS actively focus single target any Felcasters that are about to approach that 30% mark or have already transformed into the Terror. If you're not careful and you're doing too much area of effect and cleave, you can get 2 or even 3 Gorebound Felcasters to transform at the same time, and that will probably wipe you, believe it or not. 2 is kind of survivable if you use raid cooldown in particular, but beyond that, you're going to run into some trouble. So that is a primary focus of this encounter. Make sure that your DPS are well aware of the Felcasters that are active and their relative health levels. You might want to assign one player, we're using a tank, in my case, to just skull or mark somebody so that people know which is sort of the priority Felcaster target at any given time when you have 2 or 3 active. The last major mob is the hulking Berserker, and these will spawn just one at a time. And these are sort of the primary tank swap mob, even though everything is pretty much tanked in this encounter except the machines. But the basic idea here is that the hulking will stack up a debuff called Slam on the tank, and this may require tank swaps. It increases the damage that that tank takes by future slams, and it stacks up. It doesn't last very long, only about 12 seconds, so if your DPS is high enough, you don't actually have to swap. You can just alternate picking up the hulking Terrors, one tank to the other, and the buff will never stay up. But if your damage is particularly low, then you may want to consider swapping when your stack reaches 2 or 3 for any particular hulking. Although I would argue if your DPS is that low, you will probably have 2 hulkings up at the same time anyway and not be able to do the swaps. So if your stack count is just not manageable, your damage is just too low and you cannot keep the stacks from climbing on either tank, then you may want to prioritize hulking Terrors over some of the other mobs. So remember, like Felcasters, you don't have to focus them necessarily until they're going to metamorphosis. Once they transform, though, you have to burn them quickly. But if that's not an issue, you can focus on the hulking Berserkers, sorry I said Terrors, to give your tank some breathing room, because everything else is pretty much infinitely tankable. And there you can see right there, we're getting double Terror volleys, which is quite dangerous. So lastly, we'll go over some basic tips for various roles in the fight. The first thing is for the person you assign to manage the crates or the munitions. It should be generally a ranged DPS, although a healer can also do it. But the basic idea is you do not need to rush. It may feel like, oh, there's a crate on the ground, I got to pick it up immediately. But the fact of the matter is the crates on the ground last for 10 minutes. So they will be there pretty much forever on this fight. For that reason, you can delay picking up the crates and dealing with them until there's an opportune time. This is particularly important, as I said, if you're a healer and you have to, manage a lot of healing at any given time, or DPS, you have to burn, a Siegemaker down or Felcaster or something like that. You can focus on that, and then when an opportunity arises, then you can actually pick up some crates and run them over to cannons. So don't feel obligated to rush. The other option is to have the raid as a whole manage it when you have enough crates on the ground. Like I said, I think it takes 7, I want to say, on heroic. So you can just wait until you've destroyed 7 siege machines and have everybody just pick one if they're nearby one and run it all to the cannons at the same time. The thing to keep in mind, however, is that the cannons have a firing rate that is limited, so they won't fire them all at once. So you're going to have to, wait for that extra time period if you do it that way. So usually one person is better. Also for tanks, like I said, you can swap for the hulking Berserkers when slam reaches 2 to 3, but otherwise you're focusing on just picking up all the adds and helping with DPS and your survival. DPS should prioritize the Gorebound Terrors that have already transformed, then the Siege Machines, then the hulking Berserkers third, then Felcasters that have not transformed yet, and finally all the little miscellaneous adds like the Engineers and whatnot. The other thing for healers is don't be afraid to dispel the Engineer's cast of Conducted Shock Pulse. This will just be on random players and it will stun them if you leave it on them. Also, don't be afraid to use cooldowns when you have more than one transformed Gorebound Terror, because the damage on the raid will be quite high. Anyway, that's about it. Like I said, it's a very simple fight, very easy introductory encounter. Just focus on picking up all the adds for your tanks, prioritizing the correct targets, assigning one person to manage the crates, and you should be good. As always, good luck, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. So you could click subscribe and fire a love rocket straight into the cold, frigid gates that are my heart, warming me up and shattering my defenses. Or not, I don't want to be pushy.